If you drive far enough into the Nevada desert, past the highways marked on tourist maps, and beyond the ghost towns people photograph for nostalgia, you'll eventually reach a place called Dry Wells. It doesn't look abandoned. A few hundred residents still live there. There's a small gas station, a diner that closes before sunset, and a post office that opens 3 days a week. But what makes Dry Wells different isn't what you see driving in. It's what you notice at the edge of town. There, behind a rusted wire fence and scattered desert brush, sits a cemetery that shouldn't exist. From a distance, it looks ordinary. Rows of weathered headstones, names carved into stone, dates stretching back to 1908. Some graves decorated with artificial flowers bleached pale by the sun, others sinking slightly into cracked earth. It looks like any other small-town burial ground in the American West, until you realize something no one visiting ever expects. No one is buried there. The rumor began in 1974 when construction crews were hired to expand the cemetery's boundary wall. While digging new footing along the northern edge, a backhoe cut into what should have been one of the oldest graves in the cemetery. Workers stopped immediately, expecting to uncover remains. Instead, they found solid, untouched desert soil. No coffin, no wood fragments, no fabric. No trace that a burial had ever taken place. At first, it was dismissed as a mapping error. Maybe the grave marker had been misplaced. Maybe early settlers recorded things poorly. But when crews checked adjacent plots, the result was the same. Beneath headstones dated over 60 years earlier, there was nothing. Town officials quickly halted further digging. The wall was built. The incident was labeled a clerical misunderstanding, but word spread quietly among residents. And once people started questioning one grave, they started questioning all of them. Dry Wells was founded in 1906 as a silver mining settlement. The mine, located less than a mile from the cemetery, was the town's entire reason for existing. For 11 years it operated steadily, employing nearly every family in the area. Then in 1917, operations stopped abruptly. Official records state the mine closed due to financial instability, local stories say. Something else happened. According to archived newspaper clippings, 6 miners went missing after a collapse in the second shaft. Rescue crews attempted to clear the debris but stopped after reporting strange structural instability deep underground. The collapse was never fully excavated. The missing miners were declared dead. Town documents claimed they were buried in the Dry Wells cemetery. But if the cemetery's empty, where were they laid to rest? Over the decades, funerals continued in Dry Wells. Families gathered in black clothing. Coffins were lowered into freshly dug graves. Prayers were spoken. Photographs from the 1940s and 1950s clearly show burial ceremonies taking place in that same fenced plot of land. Yet when limited soil testing was conducted in the late 1980s, after erosion exposed several graves along the eastern boundary, no remains were discovered. A local contractor who participated in the inspection later claimed that what should have been disturbed, burial earth, looked like untouched desert sediment. It was as if the ground had never been opened. One retired deputy from the town once described something peculiar about burials in Dry Wells. According to him, mourners were never allowed to remain after the casket was lowered. Families would leave before the grave was filled. The groundskeeper handled the final process alone. No one ever stayed to watch the dirt cover the coffin, and no groundskeeper ever kept the job for more than 2 years. In 2008, a small independent research group brought ground-penetrating radar equipment to the cemetery without official permission. Their scans reportedly revealed large hollow spaces beneath the surface. Not individual grave shafts, but connected voids running horizontally underground. Almost like tunnels. The findings were never formally released. Within a year, the research group disbanded. Residents of Dry Wells don't openly discuss the cemetery, if asked directly whether anyone is truly buried there. Most give vague answers about old desert soil or records being different back then. But there's a detail that unsettles even longtime locals. Funerals still happen. Headstones continue to appear, yet no excavation for modern burials has ever produced visible remains. Some believe the explanation is geological. Desert soil can shift. Extreme dryness can accelerate decomposition. But forensic specialists argue that even in harsh climates, some trace evidence of burial remains should exist: coffin hardware, fabric fibers, altered soil composition. In Dry Wells, There's nothing, just solid ground beneath carved stone. The mine itself remains sealed. A rusted metal barrier blocks the original shaft entrance. Warning signs discourage trespassing. Locals say the tunnels below are unstable, riddled with collapsed chambers and hidden pockets of air that make excavation dangerous. But others believe the cemetery and the mine are connected. If the miners who vanished in 1917 were never recovered from the collapse, if their bodies were never removed from underground, then perhaps the cemetery markers were placed simply as symbols, memorials instead of graves. And if that was done once, who's to say it wasn't done again? Over time, it becomes easier to preserve a story than confront what lies beneath it. The most unsettling part isn't the possibility that the cemetery's empty. It's the possibility that something beneath the town never was. In small desert settlements, survival often depends on silence. Dry wells has survived more than a century in isolation. Mining accidents, economic collapse, population decline. Through it all, the cemeterium remained untouched rouse of names, dates, etched in stone, but no proof of burial. If you stand there at sunset, when the sky turns deep orange against the cracked earth, the place feels wrong. Not haunted, not dramatic, just hollow. And in the Nevada desert, hollow ground can mean only one thing. There's space beneath your feet. Space large enough to hold something. Or someone. So the next time you see a headstone in a quiet town and assume the story ends beneath it, remember dry wells, because sometimes what's buried isn't in the graveyard. Sometimes it's somewhere else entirely. And sometimes the scariest thing about a cemetery is that it might be empty.